amendment. The vote is open. The vote is closed. I call for the result to be displayed. The sub-amendment is not carried. We now come back to the main amendment. Does anyone wish to speak against the amendment? I don't see anybody wishing to speak against the amendment. What is the committee's opinion of the amendment?
In favour.
The committee is in favour of the amendment. Therefore, I will put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. Amendment 9 now falls because Amendment 10 was adopted. We move on now to Amendment number 1, and I call Mr. Ariev to support Amendment number 1. Mr. Ariev. Is he here?
Last year, Ukrainian parliament attempted to provide some changes to the criminal code in order to criminalize defamation. According to Ukrainian existing judicial system, which is not independent and highly corrupt, such criminalization would lead to the persecution of independent journalists and media. After protest campaign, the ruling party started to decline its intentions to implement that initiative, but some of these members promised to come back to this project later. To prevent this, I call you to support this amendment. Thank you.
Does anybody wish to speak against the amendment? Yes, sir.
Yes, previous year Parliament has such a draft, but it was successfully failed. So I responsibly state the topic of criminalization of defamation is not on agenda in Ukraine, neither in Parliament nor in the society. The amendment is completely out of date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What is the opinion of the committee?
Committee is in favour.
The committee is in favour of the amendment. I will now put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. We now come to amendment number 4, which is proposed on behalf of the Culture Committee. Mr. Walsh, are you going to propose that?
I would be glad if Rapporteur will explain it.
Mr. Johansson, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. This amendment was introduced originally by Mrs. Bergamini of Italy, who wants our attention to a quite extraordinary case of putting a publisher into prison. I wouldn't myself have published the article he published because it has to do with death penalty and stuff like that. But we still think it should be on the future agenda, so that's why we are supportive of this amendment.
Thank you very much indeed. Does anybody wish to speak against the amendment? I see nobody wishing to speak against the amendment. The opinion of the committee?
In favour.
The committee is in favour. Therefore, I put this amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. We now come to amendment number 11. If this amendment is adopted, amendment number 14 falls. I call Ms. Hofhannesson to support amendment number 11. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, the goal of this amendment is providing the conformity of paragraph 16 with the PACE observation report of May 6, 2012, parliamentary elections in Armenia. So I hope you will support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak against amendment number 11? I don't see anybody wishing to speak against it. What is the opinion of the committee?
In favour unanimously.
The committee was in favour unanimously. Therefore, I will put the amendment to the vote. The The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. As a result, amendment number 14 falls. So we move on to amendment number 2, and I call Mr. Ariev to support amendment number 2.
Last year, the record number of violations against Ukrainian journalists was fixed according to the information of the main institution who covered the situation around media in Ukraine. It's 329 cases. It's 3.5 times more than previous year, and even two times more than in year 2004. So a very difficult situation, and I call to support this amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to speak against the amendment? Yes, sir.
Thank you. This amendment, if adopted, would go in controversy and contradiction with the report of PASE observation mission concerning the recent elections in Ukraine. There is no any mention of record number of violations against journalists in this report. So we will have two opposite positions which will contradict each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What is the opinion of the committee on the amendment? The committee is in favour. I therefore put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. We now come to amendment number 5, which is proposed on behalf of the Culture Committee. Mr. Bach, are you or the rapporteur?
Yes, I would like for that.
Mr. Johansson, you have 30 seconds.
Well, this is a pure act of courtesy, and thank you for the support amendment. So I see no controversial in this. So we're in favor.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak against amendment number 5? Yes, gentleman at the back.
Я считаю, что эта поправка не имеет никакого отношения к свободе СМИ в Европе, и полагаю, что принять ее не имеет ни малейшего смысла. В принципе, это есть вещи, которые значительно более важные и не отражены в докладе. Спасибо.
The committee is obviously in favour of the amendment. Therefore, I will put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. I now come to amendment number 6 on behalf of the... I don't. All right. There is an oral amendment number 1. So I've received an oral amendment from Mr. Agrement, which says in the draft resolution in paragraph 19, delete Spain. I remind the Assembly of Rule 33(7)(a), which enables the President to accept an oral amendment or sub-amendment on the grounds of promoting clarity, accuracy, or conciliation, and if there is not opposition from 10 or more members to it being debated. I'm afraid that, in my opinion, the oral amendment does not meet the criteria of Rule 33.7a, and therefore cannot be debated. So we come to amendment number 6, and that is proposed on behalf of the committee. I think Mr. Johansson is going to propose it.
Thank you. This is just an update of the situation in these Balkan states, and it's based on sources that are a bit old, and that's why we want this update. That's why we support this amendment.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak against amendment number 6? Mr. Agrement, you have the floor. You have 30 seconds.
Sí. Yo sigo sin saber si en la enmienda el texto inglés excluye a España. Yo no sé el error dónde está, pero en el texto inglés que yo tengo aquí dice que hay que poner y no pone España. Entonces, bueno, yo no sé lo que ha pasado. Yo sigo sin saberlo y, por tanto, en todo caso, lo que ruego es que, por eso hablo en contra, porque ha de incluir a España. O sea, incluir a España en el párrafo 19 es una enorme barbaridad, un error. Y no sé yo qué pone aquí, porque no lo sé.
I understand, Mr. Agrement, in terms of the paragraph in question in both the English and the French texts, that even after the amendment, the substance is that Spain remains part of the paragraph. Can I ask for the opinion of the committee?
Committee is in favor of this amendment, and in English text it is correctly put correctly.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I now put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. We now come to amendment number 7, again on behalf of the Culture Committee, and Mr. Johansson is going to promote it for 30 seconds.
Well, it's the same argument that we have when it deals with the situation in Ukraine. It's so extraordinary that we want to put it on the media agenda of this council to be followed up. So we're in favor of this proposal.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak against the amendment? Yes, sir, in seat number 65.
Strongly against the amendment because Georgia was not even being mentioned in the report, and the situation in Georgian media was not being studied appropriately by the rapporteur. So these facts would impact on the credibility of the report and the resolution. What is pity, and I truly regrettable indeed, taking into account that it's a very important issue. Thank you.
Mr. Bekadevishvili, thank you very much indeed for opposing it. The committee is obviously in favour of the amendment. Therefore, I shall put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. We now come to amendment number 15, which was proposed by Mr. Volonte, but I think somebody else is going to propose it.
Colleagues, I would like to ask you to support this amendment, just like you supported the previous one, because it details the situation with the public broadcaster in Georgia. And this reference is very necessary because we know that public broadcasters often can be vulnerable to political pressures, and to avoid any such situation, this amendment is necessary. And the committee has also supported it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Does anyone wish to speak against the amendment? Yes, Mr. Bekashvili.
So I'm against because it's said in this amendment that it was some shift of ownership in Georgian free media. For example, ownership was shifted because it was returned to the family of debatebi, what was taken away in 2007 when police raided in a TV station, and it was done forcefully. It is about that, and is the amendment against this one? I sharply recommend Assembly not support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. What is the opinion of the committee on this amendment?
Committee voted in favor.
The committee is in favour. I shall put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. We now come to amendment number 8 on behalf of the Culture Committee, to be proposed by Mr. Johansson.
Well, it's the same thing again. It's an act of courtesy to thank sponsors of important activities, so we support it.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak against the amendment? Yes, sir.
Уважаемые коллеги, я думаю, что эта поправка тенденциозна, как и весь доклад. Послушайте, ни я, ни большинство наших коллег не присутствовали на этом мероприятии. Конференции проходит огромное количество по всему миру, и мы, на мой взгляд, не можем поддерживать такого рода вещи в докладе, равно как и эта поправка делает доклад весь сомнительным и основанным на субъективном мнении автора. Спасибо.
Thank you, Mr. Goracheva. The committee is obviously in favour of this amendment. Therefore, I shall put the amendment to the vote. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The amendment is carried. We will now proceed to a vote on the whole of the draft resolution contained in document 13078 as amended. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed, and the resolution is carried. We now come to the draft recommendation, for which we need a two-thirds majority. So we will now proceed to vote on the whole of the draft recommendation contained in document 13078. The vote is open. The vote is closed, and I call for the result to be displayed. The vote is 52 to 29, which on my calculations means we have a two-thirds majority. So, no, we don't have a two-thirds majority, sorry. Yeah, sorry. It's not carried. It's not carried. So I apologize for saying that. So the recommendation is not carried. I thank the chairman of the committee and the rapporteur for all the work they've done on this, and we now come to an item. The following written declaration has been tabled. It's number 13109, entitled "To Facilitate a Peaceful Negotiated Solution to the Kurdish Issue in Turkey. Abdullah Öcalan should be released." It has been signed by 21 members. Any member, substitute, observer, or partner for democracy may add his or her signature to this written declaration in the table office, room 1083. The Assembly will hold its next public sitting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock with the agenda which was agreed yesterday. The sitting is now adjourned. Sorry,